Welcome back to the show, everybody. You probably saw during that commercial break when we have like our live camera there, me talking to a very, very lovely local lady who is a good friend, a devoted academic, and a proud Guamanian. And she has now left a role that she's led with honor for a long time and leaves behind her a very, very lasting legacy, and is a proud graduate of the University of Guam School of Public Administration. I have infinite respect for Dr. Annette Santos. I can't believe, Annette, we are calling you the now former dean
of
SP.
Too.
Has it really sunk in yet?
It has, I think, in terms of the role, but my heart is still there. I just sent a message.
And clearly so is your fashion, because you wore UOG green.
Yes, it's Green Day today.
That's a lovely shade of green, by the way. That's a UOG all the way.
Thank you. But yeah, it hasn't sunk in yet. I'm still teaching part-time, so I still feel connected. But I think I'm going to have to take some time to reflect on what I've done and then plan the way forward, because when we talk about strategy, it's always about where are we going and how we're going to get there. So I need to be a practitioner of what I teach.
You'll never truly step away from SPVA, because that's part of the challenge and the fun of business is, you know, it's always evolving, it's always changing, it's always challenging.
And that's why it's hard to separate, right? Not only have I formed a family with SBPA, I've developed a level of care for it that you just can't let go. And it's not just for SBPA, it's for the entire university. I think that the University of Guam as a whole has a duty and responsibility to care for its community, and being brought up in that campus community, that's the commitment, and you don't just walk away from commitment, you kind of just evolve from it. So
well, let's talk about what led you to the decision, because obviously, you know, you've still got lots and lots of energy, you've got a lot of ambition. You know, we're all 26, right? So you know, you've got decades ahead of you. But when did you start thinking that, you know, this might be the opportune time for it? And maybe opportunity is the key word, you know, being, you know, leading a business school.
Right. I had thought about it a year ago, but honestly, this was like, I was talking to my daughters about this. In the 1990s, I attended this retreat when I was a word processing secretary. And in the retreat, we were asked to imagine our future. And one of the things I imagined was that I would retire at 55. But it's a year later, but still true. And I didn't think about it until recently.
Let's round down.
It just dawned on me recently, but I think it was, I thought about it a year ago, seriously thinking about it. And it kind of goes back to this, this book and this saying about staying at the top of the mountain for too long. You kind of lose your breath, you kind of, you know, get disoriented. And it's not that I didn't love doing the work that I did, because I do. It's just that I needed change. And sometimes our body tells us that it's time for change. And that's what led to the decision. And it's not that I didn't love the work or the people, it was just that I was ready for it.
And you told me this. I remember I did a week-long series on Charter Day earlier this year, and when I had the pleasure of interviewing you again, as I do every year for Charter Day, I can't believe we're not going to be able to do that anymore. Come back on it. You know, your place on this show is secure, right? But I remember when I did that interview with you, you said, as business majors, we not only have so much reverence for capitalism, but, you know, competition is in our DNA. We crave challenge. You know, we look forward to, you know, you say, what is your favorite project that you've ever worked on? The next one.
Right.
So obviously, you know, moving on, accepting new futures, new challenges, new opportunities, new hurdles even. I mean, that's very much something to look forward to.
It really is, and it's embracing sometimes that uncertainty. There's a level of excitement that comes with it, and I've always had this deep trust about what the future has in store for me. I've never been disappointed, and so I think that's what my trust is built on. It's also built on the level of faith that there's this plan that's already that's been made, and I'm just going with the flow. So I'm just being the vessel and doing what I have to do in this life, and I still don't know.
That's the big dean upstairs.
Exactly.
You work for a much higher power.
I do.
As we all do.
I do, and I think it's having connections like this where we can talk about it and explore what those possibilities could be that are exciting to me.
Well, I know you well enough, Doc, Annette, if I may, Dean.
Yes.
You've got so many titles. That, you know, you never even think about, you know, claiming credit for anything that you the university has been able to do under your tenure. You always say it's about the school, it's about the university as a whole, as a community. But during your time there, the only constant really is change, especially again for a business school. And SPBA changed in so many different ways, and all positive.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe talk about like some of the programs, you know, the initiatives, the different ways students like had to learn or wanted to learn.
Yeah, that's a lot to talk about, but
we got until 6. You know, we don't have to do the news until then.
So it really begins with looking at fulfilling the needs of our community, right? So what does our community need? Our community needs leaders. And how do we create leaders? It's through our programs and trying to get the support of our faculty and of our university leadership to launch some of these new programs, which we were able to do. We saw that there were a lot of really neat capstone projects and deliverables that our students and faculty were producing, and so we thought this leads to something more. It just can't like sit on a shelf. And so we came up with 2 new centers, the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation and also the Regional Center for Public Policy. And so that kind of brings the academic programs into another realm of productivity, and that's research, technical reports, community engagement, really fostering discourse in our community about topics that are so important, whether it's business related, policy related, and all leadership related. So that was important to us. And then it became something bigger than ourselves as an island. It became more of a regional interest because the students that come to the University of Guam mostly are from our island communities, our neighboring islands. And we thought, well, we need to be where they're at. And so we thought, well, there's been requests for our programs to be present at some of the community colleges, and what can we do about that? And so we explored having the Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice program being the pilot program to serve as an outreach or a presence in the community, and that's what we did. And you know, we had a successful first cohort. We're drumming up interest for the second cohort with the Northern Marianas College, and they're just like really happy about the University of Guam being present and providing opportunities for students who are full-time employees, have families and homes and commitments right there in Saipan, and they appreciate the fact that they don't have to leave all of that to pursue an education. So
and then as an academic, that whole pandemic thing happened and everything. So what were the challenges that were literally thrust upon you and your faculty to try and like accommodate and, you know, still maintain that framework of learning and of interaction and of, you know, and of producing, you know, young minds that could go directly into the workforce and now solve these problems, but, you know, under such, you know, constrained conditions?
Yeah, it was about access and connecting them, and that became the priority. It's how are students going to access instruction? How are faculty going to access the students so that we can continue our commitment to learning? And that's what we did. We had, you know, such a great team at the School of Business and Public Administration, and they were able to provide some ideas. We put that out there. Our senior administrators were also working on this, but each of the deans, I think, were tasked to try to figure out what we were going to do for our own units because there was so much happening. And I was fortunate to have a great team, someone who's knowledgeable about which platforms would work best and how to support that platform. So that was the key. It's like, okay, we need to bring in one more person who's going to be a support to our students and run technology, social media, so that we get the word out there, which they did successfully.
And oh, by the way, we need it yesterday.
Yeah, right. And so they were willing to do it. And I think it was just the attitude of wanting to help, that willingness that you could build anything from. And I think when people talk about, you know, competence can come, you can learn how to do it, but it's the willingness to do the work that was very important to us. So people were willing, they did the work, and we were able to, conduct our classes virtually. There were some, opportunities for learning because not everyone was gifted in technology or skilled in technology, but the university actually created some programs for faculty to learn how to use technology, which we appreciate even more today. So that was a major step for us that, propelled us forward. It was what we needed to get to where we had to be several years ago, maybe a decade ago.
Well, right? And I know a lot of the feedback that I've gotten, from fellow alumni and from current faculty and current students is they said, anybody can run, well, not anybody, but, many people could run a business school and have it be like a real tight run ship, but Dean Santos has always made it fun too. Yeah. We always feel as if she and her team have our back and they want us to succeed. It's not just, this shakedown program. And if you can't hack it, hit the road. But, you actually really go for student success.
I do, because that's our future. And they're relying on us. I am back in the classroom, and I'm realizing even more these recent weeks. I'm realizing more about our students and where they come from and the challenges that they are experiencing and how much more we can do to help support them. And we've been fortunate to have people who do care. And we need to create that level of care throughout the campus community. And we have amazing students. People may think that because we're a small island, we're nobody, or we don't have the capacity to go toe-to-toe with other universities or students from other universities. But I tell you, when we engage in national assessments and we look at how our students perform, it's very telling that our students are very capable. And
they're very, very proud without being narcissistic or, just being, like, look at us. It's like,
it's that island culture, right?
Exactly.
We're taught to be humble and respectful and confident.
But also represent your family, represent your village, represent your school.
Yeah.
And,
Yep. And I always remind them, don't be ashamed of where you come from. Guam is a beautiful place, first of all. The reason why it's not highly profiled is people haven't heard of it. It's still pristine because of that. But you should be proud of it. And we're unique, right? The values that we demonstrate with each other in our community, it's still there. You're smiling.
Because I want to talk about environment and surroundings right there. And Annette, I'm so glad you brought that up, right? Because I've had the pleasure of interviewing you in your office before. I want to say you've got one of the nicest views, or had. I can't believe we're using that in the past tense. How is it to give up such an amazing vista? And what office do you have now?
I don't have an office.
Oh, okay.
I have a classroom.
Okay. And speaking of that, right? Because I'm old school UOG, right? I graduated in the mid-90s. So I was literally in the old A building.
Yes, I remember that.
Where we could just focus on nothing but the chalkboard and the whiteboard, right?
Right.
You guys have this amazing Leon Guerrero school right now that is unbelievably conducive to interaction, networking, collaboration. It's so technical with all of like the internet connectivity and and the resources you have. That is absolutely a main cog in how well the students perform.
Yeah.
And you've told me this before.
Yeah, and it's creating that ecosystem, right? We think about successful ecosystems. I just had this conversation with students yesterday about, what's an example of a successful ecosystem? We talked about Silicon Valley. It's like, what do they have there? They have talent. They have educational facilities there where you can co-locate these types of these interests so that you can continue to have accelerators and incubators for growth and to thrive. And I thought, well, my dream is that one day this university campus will grow and become that, where businesses can come and invest in setting up shop right there where they have access to the University of Guam, Guam Community College, George Washington High School. I mean, that's like an ecosystem just ready to be launched. And we need it to get there. But it's having an ecosystem of support. And that's what every decision I made was based on that. Is this going to support student learning? And is this going to support faculty's ability to teach? that was the question I always ask. And then, of course, my team will laugh because the other question I always ask is, are faculty getting paid on time? Because that's really important, right?
Well, when I worked for you that one semester, when I taught business and networks for IT and everything like that, I never had that problem. So my pocketbook thanks you.
Thank you.
for your diligence.
I am so glad to hear that.
Yeah. Okay. You also mentioned, I remember when I interviewed you for that for the Charter Day series, that the down the road vision for UOG, there's possibly like a doctorate in accountancy, is it, program that is being kind of conceived right now? I mean, that's a ways away.
Yeah, it's the Master's of Accountancy.
Oh, Master's, okay.
Yeah, so that was approved.
But a doctorate is always being discussed.
Right, so we have the Master's of Accountancy coming up,
Right.
and the first cohort will begin in November. And then we have a group of faculty who are designing a proposal for a doctorate in leadership. They haven't solidified the actual degree name, but it definitely is tied to leadership, and that's where we can harness the expertise of our faculty across the School of Business and Public Administration. So leadership is the common theme, and so I think what we're looking for in our community is leadership. So that we can have people in place that need to make really critical decisions, be educated in at least the frameworks, the methodologies, the applications, and tie that into their practical, experiential portfolio. So the two together, I think, will help bring our island to where it needs to be, where there are decisions are prioritized based on impact to our community's ability to grow and thrive.
And I told you this, and although you're not in the same role that you previously were maybe a couple months ago and everything like that, I can't wait till that either DBA or PhD program, because I want to be in that first cohort, because I'm really looking forward to that.
You guys heard that, put Jason's name down.
Well, it's legally binding, of course, because now it's on YouTube. Okay, and before I let you go, and this might be like a little bit difficult for you, right? Because
Okay.
I know how humble, and again, you like to defer, a lot of the praise to the people that you have behind you, because, like a true leader is nothing without their team, right?
Right.
But what would you like, if you had it your way, what would you like your legacy to be, and how would you like to be remembered as when you were the Dean of the School of Business and Public Administration?
Wow, that's a good one. It makes me think about beginning with the end in mind, and something I taught my students when we were covering the Covey book, because I'm a true Covey fan.
Stephen Covey.
Yep, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
I've only read that book like 1,000 times.
Right? But it's about what people will say at your funeral. And I just want people to say that I led with my heart and I impacted their life in a positive way. Well, that's making me teary-eyed.
It's okay.
Yeah, but I think that's what I want.
You led the business school. I know there's probably some psychology majors who are watching this right now, and they're like, no, that's a very natural process. You should emote, and you should,
Yeah.
It's good to know that, your heart was at SPBA.
Yeah.
Your brain was with the research, and your tear ducts are here on the hotspot right now working.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much. Well, and on behalf of a grateful community, thank you for everything you did for UOG, because your accomplishments are certainly off the charts. But UOG is so much better for you having been there and everything.
Thank you.
And I am proud to be an alumni, and again, an alumni specifically of SPBA.
And we are so proud of you.
And
so thank you.
You're really going to be missed. But you're not going anywhere. You're still teaching.
I'm still here. I'm still teaching, and I look forward to continuing to be engaged. I do.
And last question. I asked you this several months ago. Is there any way that, I mean, you're still Dr. Annette Santos, right? I know you got a lot of pull. Is there any way you can go back to like my 1994 transcript and change that like B I got in accounting 101 to like an A possibly?
That B, right? We talked about that. That's got higher value than an A that could go there, because look at what you're doing. You're doing amazing things, and it's not about the grade.
Dr. Kreis, you heard that.
And
if you're watching right now.
It's never about the grade. It's really about what you do with what you're taking away from it. And that grade is only a result of what you were taught, right? It's so encapsulated into that classroom and that course. Your life is so much more than that. And I want to tell, I wasn't an A student, I'll tell you that much. I wasn't like the straight A student in college, because I had 3 children, I had a husband, I was working full time. But that grade that I got, whether it was a B or a C, because I got C's, it's highly valued, because it wouldn't have challenged me to try harder, to work harder, and to get to where I am today.
Very, very nice. Well, you know, obviously you're still giving quality lectures. I just had one. I was taking notes, trust me. I'll start up here. So thank you, Annette, once again, and congratulations on an absolutely brilliant career.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Please stay tuned. The Hotspot will wrap up right after this.